Okay, so today we start with the major statistical mining methods. We had discussed regression, gave you examples for dependent independent variables. Okay, so this is where we stopped in yesterday's class. Okay, so today we discuss the generalized linear model and the mixed effect models. Okay, so when you say generalized linear models, generalized linear model, okay, so it's like a terminology which encompasses a number of models. Okay, so I mean, you have all the logistic regression, Poisson regression, all these comes under a generalized linear model. Okay, so uh, when you consider, I'll explain with another figure. Okay, because you would have already learned about what is called a linear model. Okay, so today let's try to understand what this generalized linear model is all about. Okay, so generalized linear model. Okay, so in linear model, all of you are aware that the response variable or the dependent variable or the so-called target variable, which will generally be represented as y, will be expressed as a linear function or as a linear combination of all the independent variables or the regression variables or the so-called observed variables, which will be represented by x. Okay, so the relationship between this x and y will generally be linear, as you can see here, a straight line relationship. Okay, so you can visualize the relationship as a in the form of a straight line. You can see here a straight line. Okay, so and again the error distribution, the error distribution of the response variable. Okay, so that will generally be in the form of a normal distribution. Okay, or normally distributed. Okay, so that's the reason why we are building a linear model. Okay, so now coming to what is called a generalized linear model. So you can see here in the right hand side the generalized linear model. So this will help us to build a linear relationship between the response and the predictors. Okay, so but then the underlying relationship may not be a linear relationship. Okay, so how it is made possible is it's made possible by making use of some sort of link function. Okay, so it will basically link the response variable to the linear model. Okay, so again, I mean, in your linear regression, I said the error distribution may be a normal distribution, but then unlike this linear model, in the case of a generalized linear model, the error distribution of the response variable, okay, that need not be normally distributed. You can see here, you can see a Poisson curve here. Okay, so it can follow a exponential distribution, some sort of exponential distribution. It can be a normal distribution, a binomial distribution, a Poisson distribution, or some sort of gamma distribution. Okay, so uh, what we are trying to do is we are trying to generalize a linear regression model. Okay, so which can be applied in many cases. Okay, so that's the reason why we call it as a generalized linear model. Okay, so I hope you have understood what is the difference between a linear model and a generalized linear model. Okay, here the relationship may not be a cannot be modeled as a linear. It cannot be a straight line. You can see here it's not a straight line, it's an exponential curve. Okay, and again the error distribution also may be same. Okay, so it can be applied in many cases. That's why we call it as a generalized linear model. Okay, then of course we have what is called your mixed effect model. Mixed effect model. Okay, so this basically is for analyzing grouped data. Okay, grouped data. Okay, grouped data in the sense data that can be classified according to one or more grouping variables. Okay, so one or more grouping variables, that is what is called a uh, grouped model. Okay, so yeah, the data can be classified according to one or more grouping grouping variable. Okay, so that's when we call it as a mixed effect model. Okay, so typically describes the relation between a response variable and some covariates in data grouped according to one or more factors. Okay, so actually this mixed effect model, mixed effect model. So they are actually good when you have some sort of trends. Let's say some group level trends are there, then again some global trends are there. Okay, so I mean, this is also a regression model, regression model, mixed effect regression model. Okay, so I mean, one example is being shown here. Same way, the students within a classroom, okay, they can be grouped. Okay, or I mean, let's take the same example what is being shown here in the PPT. Okay, patients. Okay, so doctor and patients. Okay, so patients from within the doctors. Okay, so when there are multiple levels. Okay, so multiple levels in the sense, patients seen by the same doctor. Okay, so you can see here patient level observation. Okay, so patients seen by the same doctor, the variability in the outcome can be thought of as being either within the group or between the group. Okay, so that is, there are so many groups here, or clusters here. Okay, so within this group or among these two groups. Okay, so patient level observations are not independent. Okay, as within a given doctor, patients are more similar, something like your intercluster and intracluster similarity, what we discussed in the fourth unit. Okay, so units whatever is being sampled at the highest level. Okay, highest level in our example, doctor patient relation, doctor, so that they are considered to be independent. Okay, so in here, like the figure whatever is being depicted here in the PPT. Okay, so the dots are the patients, all these are the patients. Okay, within the doctors, the larger circles. Okay, larger circles are the doctors, within the doctors who are all patient for one particular doctor, this is patients for another doctor. Okay, doctor D1, D2, D3. Okay, so I mean, there are how many, one, two, three, four, five, six. Okay, so patients being analyzed by six doctors. Okay, so I mean, we can, how to deal with this sort of data is, maybe you can aggregate them, find some sort of aggregate statistics. Okay, so let's say some 10 patients are being sampled from each doctor. Okay, so rather than using individual patients' data, which is generally not independent, we could take the average of all the patients within a doctor. Okay, so this aggregated data would then be independent. Okay, so although aggregate data analysis can yield some sort of consistent results. Okay, but then of course errors would always be a part of it. Okay, but then here what we are basically doing is we are averaging the patient data, averaging the patient data. Okay, so at the, you are looking at the average aggregate level. Okay, so here you can see there are six data points. This is one, two, three, six aggregate points. Okay, so that's one way of dealing with that data by means of some aggregate statistics. Okay, so then yet another way of dealing with this sort of data is, you can call it as a hierarchical data also, a mixed effect model having a hierarchical data. Okay, so you can analyze the data one unit at a time. Okay, so one unit at a time. So here we have six units. Okay, six units or six doctors each having 10 patients. Okay, so in that case we can run six separate linear regressions. Okay, so one for each doctor in the sample. Okay, so I mean, I mean, both the methods, whatever I said, okay, the first and the second, okay, so both works in many situations. Okay, but then this can result in noisy data also, because the estimates from each model is not based on very much of data. Okay, so it can be noisy data also. Okay, so these are the linear mixed models or multi-level models, you can say mixed effect models or multi-level models. Okay, so it's always a trade-off between how do you look at the data. Is it by computing aggregate statistics or by taking each unit at a time? Okay, so when you compute aggregate statistics like mean and other things, average data, the noise will be less. Okay, but then you may lose important differences when you're trying to average the sample from each doctor. Okay, so because of the disadvantages associated with the mean, so that I mean, the aggregates can be less noisy. Okay, but then the second method by considering each statistic. Okay, so the noise could be more. Okay, when you consider each statistic, each unit separately and run 6 separate linear regression. So in such case, the noise can be more. Okay, so that's regarding the so its mixed effect model is always a trade-off between these two considerations of how to deal with the data. Okay, so that's what is regarding the mixed effect model. I hope you've understood what is a generalized linear model. I made you try to understand the difference between a linear model and a generalized linear model. Then we looked into the mixed effect model for analyzing grouped data. Okay, I gave you the example with respect to a patient doctor strategy and how to deal with that particular data. Okay, so next is the regression trees. Okay, so this you have already learned. I think in when we discussed decision trees also we learned about CART. CART. CA stands for classification and RT was classification and regression trees. Okay, so binary trees used for classification and prediction. Okay, so it's similar to decision trees where test is being performed at the internal nodes. Okay, so these are the statistical visualizations being done by some software. Okay, so then in regression tree, the mean of the objective attribute is computed and used as the predicted value. Okay, so same way we have what is called the analysis of variance. Okay, so it's a short form for it, analysis of variance. What is it? It's a very famous test, analysis of variance. What is a test called? The short form for it, analysis of variance. This is the expanded form of the test. Entire class is sleeping or nobody knows? Analysis of variance, the short form for it. Good heavens, nobody knows. Nityashri, at least I was expecting one answer, or people have told you not to answer.
No, ma'am. Is it F test?
See, just heard of this. ANOVA, ANOVA. So ANOVA, the full form is analysis of variance. ANOVA. Okay. So rather than going into details of like what this ANOVA test is about and working out a problem, let me try to make you understand where this is being used. Analysis of variance or ANOVA test. Okay, so if you consider certain decision making situation, okay, so the sample data, it may be divided into uh, various groups. Okay, so that is that particular sample may be supposed to have consist of, let's say, k subsamples. Okay, k subsamples. Okay, so we are actually interested in examining whether the total sample can be considered as homogeneous, or is there some indication that the subsamples have been drawn from different population. Okay, so in these situations, okay, we actually have to compare the mean values of the different groups with respect to maybe one criteria or more than one criteria. Okay, so whatever the total variation is, okay, so the total variation whatever is present in the set of the data, so that may be partitioned into a number of overlapping, uh, I mean, not overlapping, non-overlapping components as per how your classification works, maybe the nature of the classification. Okay, so whatever systematic procedure you do to accomplish this, so that is what is called your ANOVA test, your analysis of variance. Okay, then with the help of this sort of partitioning, as Nityasri has said, some testing of hypothesis, everything can be performed. Okay, testing of hypothesis and other things can be performed. So as such, analysis of variance stands for ANOVA. Okay, so maybe I'll give you a, is there an example mentioned here? Okay, okay, I'll give you the example for ANOVA. Okay, so a situation where ANOVA test is being useful or how it is being applied. Okay, I'm not going into the details of ANOVA test and performing an ANOVA test and showing you how it works. Rather than that, business situation where exactly an ANOVA test is being used. Okay, so I said analysis of variance. When I say analysis of variance, the central thing one of the most fundamental characteristic of data, as far as any data, because we are speaking only about data, we are interested only about data. Okay, so one of the most fundamental characteristic of your data is nothing but your variance. Okay, the most fundamental characteristic of your data is variance. Okay, variance will always be there in the data. Okay, so let's consider a company. Let's say XYZ company. XYZ company. Let's say it's an FMCG company. What is an FMCG company? Hmm? Don't say I'm not a MBA student. I don't know what is an FMCG company. You must be reading newspapers or looking into the trends and other things. Hmm? Anybody knows the full form of FMCG? Nobody wants to answer again, once again, right? Hmm? Fast moving consumer goods. Okay, so let's say this XYZ, a fast moving consumer goods company, it's being, they are, it's regarding the sales, sales of a particular product that belongs to that company.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
so FMCG includes all kinds of products, is it? I mean,
Yes, it's a big umbrella of products.
okay.
So many, all the fast moving consumer goods, whatever you find in a supermarket, most of the things come under.
Like frozen foods, prepared meals,
Everything,
all those
even in
things.
your shampoo, soap, battery, everything comes under FMCG.
Okay.
So fast moving consumer goods, which people use on a day to day basis, everything comes under FMCG. Okay, so um, they have, let's say they have divided their sales, okay, the product sales into, let's say, four geographic regions. Four geographic regions. Let's say east, west, north, south region, southern region. Okay, so the random data samples, that is data samples, when I say sales data samples, is being collected from different outlets. Outlets, okay, whatever is being spread in these four geographic locations: north, northeast, northern, southern, eastern, and western. Okay, so if it's the sales data, mainly FMCG means they are interested only in the sales data. Okay, so the total variation, whatever happens in sales, okay, so they can be measured by your SSE, that is sum of squared deviation from the average sales. Okay, so if we try to analyze the source of variation as far as sales data is concerned, okay, there could be multiple sources. Okay, so one could be analyzed as variation in sales within a particular region. Okay, within a particular region. Okay, so that is within northern region. The variation, reasons for variation in sales. Okay, so that can be called as a within the group variation. Within the group variation, because we are considering four groups: northern group, southern group, eastern group, western group. Okay, so variation in sales within northern group. Okay, so that's called within the sales variation. Okay, then of course we are also interested in analyzing the variation in sales among the different groups, that is variation in sales between the northern region and the southern region. Okay, so there could be impact based on various aspects. Okay, the living habits of people, or the consuming habits of people, or whatever. Okay, so there could be variation among the regions, that is between the group variations, between northern and southern, or eastern and western. Okay, so whatever it is, so in this case, in our XYZ FMCG company case, the total variations, whatever is present in the sample data, they will be partitioned into two categories. Okay, what are the two categories? Within the region, sales deviations or sales variation, and then what is their magnitude, what is the value, uh, deviation value that you get. So that will be compared. That will be compared on various aspects. And then the second component would be, uh, I mean, between the different groups. Okay, so within the groups variation and between the group variation will be compared on various aspects. Okay, so then appropriate marketing strategies can be improved, or whatever, if they see some major deviation in certain cases. Okay, so that's where in all these cases we go for what is called your analysis of variation or analysis of variance. So that's what I wanted to tell you: analysis of variance within the group, analysis of variance between the group. Okay, so that's where we go for finding out uh, uh, that's where we go for doing ANOVA test, ANOVA, analysis of variance. Okay, and then maybe you can reposition your marketing strategies or target marketing strategies wherever the sales are down or the deviation is found to be maximum and other things. Okay, so I gave you this example to make you understand what this ANOVA test or where this ANOVA test can be made use of, or what this analysis of variance is all about. Okay, so two or more populations described by the numeric response variable and one or more categorical variables or factors. Okay, right. So that's what regression trees and ANOVA is all about. So next is what is called factor analysis. Okay, so heard about factor analysis? Factor analysis. Okay, so this technique, basically, it's actually, you can call it as a data compression or data reduction technique also. Data reduction technique. In the sense, when you want to reduce a large number of variables into a few number of factors. Factors is a synonym for variable itself. Okay, and you want to manage which data is going to be presented in the form of a visualization tool or on some visualization dashboards and present it to the management. Okay, you're trying to reduce huge number of variables into a few number of variables and manage which data is going to be presented onto the sheet. Okay, so that's what comes under the purview of the so-called technique called factor analysis. Okay, it's basically a data reduction technique. Okay, so a statistical technique. Okay, so where you want to reduce the number of observed factors or observed variables to get a better insight about the data. Okay, or to find out some patterns or whatever. Okay, so that's what. So when you say factors, factor is nothing but variables under observation, you can say. Okay, so when you say a data set, there it will be multi-dimensional data sets, real world data sets. We don't want to consider all the data variables in that. Okay, so factor analysis, this particular technique will condense these factors into fewer variables. Okay, whatever is related or to that particular work or for that particular application. Okay, so that's what is called a factor analysis. Okay, example is given for many psychiatric data. One such indirectly measure other quantities like test score that reflect the factor of interest. Okay, only those variables or observed variables of interest is being considered. That's what we call it as a factor analysis. Okay, so this factor analysis is actually a very useful tool for analyzing or inspecting the changeable relationships. Okay, changeable relationships. For example, when you say changeable relation, it can be the economic status. The economic status may not be the same every time. Okay, or even the eating habits, you can say the dietary patterns, the eating habits, it may not be the same throughout the lifetime of a person, or it could be due to multiple reasons or situations. The dietary patterns or the eating patterns can change, or the biological patterns can change. Then the personalities or the personality related theories, all these things can be you can do factor analysis on all these things. Again, it plays a very good role in product management, marketing management, operations research, finance. Okay, everywhere factor analysis do find a application. Okay, especially when you have when you're trying to visualize or inspect changeable relationships which changes over a period of time. Okay, so all these complex concepts can be inspected by making use of your factor analysis. Okay, so the next one is what is, I hope people are listening, not sleeping early in the morning. Listening? Sriram, listening? Sriram is not listening. Okay, who else is listening? Nishok is listening. Nishok VG. Oh my God, no response from anyone. Whom shall I call? Okay, my regular student Rakesh. Rakesh is listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, very good, Rakesh. Thank you, Rakesh. So, okay, fine. Okay, so let's move on to the next technique. Next technique is what is called discriminant analysis. Okay, discriminant analysis. So this is basically a classification technique. A classification technique. Okay, so where let's say you want to classify things into some sort of non-overlapping groups. Okay, so I mean, you want to classify the observation into some sort of non-overlapping groups, we go for this discriminant analysis. Okay, so when you want to classify the um, let's say a biological application, organisms into some sort of species, mammals or the ones with the 2 legs, 4 legs, whatever. Okay, so you want to classify the organisms into species and subspecies. Okay, or you want to classify the applications for loans or credit card. Okay, all these things. Okay, or the doctor want to perform some sort of discriminant analysis to identify the people who have a high risk for stroke and a low risk for stroke. All these things. So doctor will be performing a discriminant analysis to find out or to classify identify the patients at high risk or low risk for a stroke. Okay, so that's what it attempts to determine several discriminant functions, linear combinations of independent variables that discriminate among the groups defined by the response variable. Okay, or insurance, I mean health insurance into low risk category or high risk category. So some sort of classification we want to do. Okay, so that's when we go for this um, discriminant analysis. Okay, so when you want to have two classes, okay, so when you want to have two classes, I mean, we should be able to clearly mark a line between those two classes. Okay, so classes will be having multiple features. Okay, so when you use only a single feature to classify them, okay, it may result in some overlapping. So you can see here, you I mean, there's some overlapping, a green coming here. Okay, so one way to do is you can keep increasing the number of features for proper classification. Okay, so that's when we have this technique called LDA, linear discriminant analysis. Discriminant analysis. Okay, so this is yet another statistical. I'm not going into the technical details of this. I'm just trying to tell you what this technique is all about and where this is being used from a data mining perspective. Okay, so a linear discriminant analysis. Okay, so you can see here in this particular figure, there's no straight line that will separate the two classes or the data points. Okay, so in the case of LDA, what you do is, I mean, uh, uh, I mean, even if you draw a two-dimensional graph with x-axis and y-axis, you will not be able to clearly draw a straight line between them. Okay, so you transform them into a one-dimensional graph. Okay, in order to maximize the separability between the two classes. Okay, so that's a general concept involved in discriminant analysis. Okay, so increase the number of features and further go for it. Okay, so that's what your discriminant analysis is all about. Predict a categorical response variable commonly used in social science. Okay, so next, so these are the another two statistical data mining techniques. One is factor analysis. I give you examples for it. And then this next one is discriminant analysis. Okay, now, okay, coming to what is called yeah, survival analysis and time series. Okay, so time series, many methods such as auto regression or auto regressive integrated moving average model, long memory time series modeling, a time series analysis of data, displays group summaries and charts. Okay, so now let's look into what the summary analysis, sorry, some survival analysis is all about. Okay, heard about survival analysis? Heard about survival analysis? So it's a terminology which is often, I mean, survival, associated with the medical field. See, medical treatment. It's mentioned here. Predicts the probability that a patient undergoing a medical treatment would survive at least uh, to time t, that is lifespan prediction. Okay, so in the sense, I said it's a terminology which is associated with the medical field, particularly in treatment trials. Okay, so you are considering the current treatment plan, how long will that
Actually,
particular
while looking into the Laplace transforms in our second or third semester, we had an function called survival function. Is it something related to
yes,
that?
yes,
We
exactly,
had
yes,
something
yes, yes,
called S of
yes,
t,
yes,
and we had a condition,
yes,
and then
yes,
we
yes,
had
yes.
a distribution also. We learnt about
Hmm.
the event density and all those things. Is it
Yes,
something?
yes, yes. They're related to that. That's the
Okay.
same thing, the survival. Okay. Like
Okay.
in the medical field, considering a particular certain treatment plan, how long that particular patient, how long that patient will continue to survive. Okay. So all these survival analysis models. So they will
Like we
predict.
had the survival distribution, the censoring, and all those things, right?
Yes, 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 yes. So what this survival analysis model will do is it will predict how long, how long before a particular event occurs. Okay, in the sense before maybe the one chronic disease, the doctor has told he'll live only for 6 months. So that 6 months is the time gap. So how before his death or before that predicted date, how long he will survive before a particular event occurs. That's what the survival analysis will be modeling. Okay, so actually in many domains wherever we use the simple classification, okay, to predict the occurrence of an event, okay, survival analysis actually can be used to add some sort of valuable dimension of time. So valuable dimension of time is until that occurrence. You can include that until that occurrence. Mm. So this dimension can be added. Okay, so to classification, this will provide some useful information in many cases. Okay, then not just in medical field. If you see many companies, have you heard about uh, churn predictions? Churn prediction analysis, churn prediction, churning attrition rates in companies. Hmm? Churning and attrition. What are these terminologies? The other word for it is, churn and attrition, they are opposite words. Attrition. Employee attrition rate in a particular company, or churn prediction. Heard about this? Attrition is how long they will stick on to a particular company. That's what is how you are able to retain them. So churn prediction is like the customers who are going to leave that particular company. Customers who are going to leave that particular company, because in some cases churning or employee leaving the company will be unavoidable. Okay, so he's not interested in that company, so he is moving out of the company. But then you can always predict whether there are chances for employees to leave the company, analyzing certain factors. Okay, so and the employees can even, the organization can even think of strategies to retain that particular employee if he's a valuable employee, if he is found to be not so happy and not so productive these days due to multiple reasons, because of his salary range or whatever. Okay, so in such case you can this survival analysis. Okay, so survival analysis, whether he will survive in that particular company or not, or whether he will stay back in that particular company. Survival here is whether he will stay back in that company. Okay, so he can predict, okay, if the customer, if the particular employee or even a customer associated with that company, if it's a telecom company or something, whether he will, Airtel customer will switch over to Vodafone or whatever. Okay, whether the customer will churn, or how long until they are expected to churn. Okay, how long the person will stay with Airtel, or before switching on to over to Vodafone, or how long that particular employee will stay in that particular organization before he switches over to another company. Okay, so as a result, that company can intervene with some sort of incentives to that customers. Okay, so immediately some offers can be given to them, so that he is being forced to stay with that particular company. Okay, so again, for churn prediction analysis, churn determining the attrition rate. Okay, so all these things can be done using your survival analysis. Okay, so accurate prediction of the upcoming churners. Okay, people who are likely to switch over to another company, or customers who are likely to switch over the products from one company to another company. Okay, so you can focus on high targeted campaigns, marketing campaigns. Okay, and try to make them stay back with you. Okay, so that's also one application domain for survival analysis. Okay, so it's not just the medical field. Okay, so it is being used in churn prediction also. Okay, so with that, we complete this. Okay, so these are the various statistical techniques. Okay, of course, we do have one more small topic. We'll take it up in the, this is not the end of the unit. It's the end of this particular topic, which we are discussing in the 5th unit. Okay, so let me take attendance. So we discussed all these statistical techniques today. Regression was discussed in the previous class. Today we discussed about generalized linear models and how what's the difference between linear model and generalized linear model. Then again, analysis of variance or ANOVA. Along with that, we looked at the regression trees also, then the mixed effect models, factor analysis, then LDA, linear discriminant analysis, and survival analysis, right? So these are all interesting areas. Okay, so now let me take attendance.